This is not the, what do you say? The ability of the person who opens, who made open. Wallah. So, would you like to start, Tahir?
Okay. So we know. Like, yeah, help me out, inshallah. If I lost permission.
Or Musab can start and we can continue after him.
Yeah, actually, I'll just pop this in.
During that time, we can.
We go to the right, inshallah. No.
Yeah, right this way, so.
Okay. Who's that?
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salatu wassalamu ala Muhammad wa ala alihi ajma'in. The third way, nature necessitates it, nature makes it. The statement contains many impossibilities. We shall mention there of them by way of examples. First impossibility. If the art and creativity, which are discerned and wise, to be seen in beings and particularly in animate beings, are not attributed to the pen of divine determining and power of the pre-eternal Son, and instead are attributed to nature and force, which are blind, deaf, and unthinking, it becomes necessary that nature either should have present in everything machines and printing presses for their creation, or should include in everything power and wisdom enough to create and administer the universe. The reason for this is as follows. The sun's manifestations and reflections appear in all small fragments of glass and droplets on the face of the earth. If those miniature reflected in imaginary suns are not ascribed to the sun in the sky, it is necessary to accept the external existence of the actual sun in every teeny fragment of the glass, smaller than a matchhead, which possess the sun's qualities and which, though small in size, bears profound meaning, and therefore to accept actual suns to the number of pieces of glass. In exactly the same way, if beings and animate creatures are not attributed directly to the manifestations of the pre-eternal Sun's names, it becomes necessary to accept that in each being, and especially animate beings, there lies a nature, a force, or quality quite simply a God that will sustain an infinity power and will, and knowledge and wisdom. Such an idea is the most absurd and superstitious of all the impossibilities in the universe. It demonstrates that a man who attributes the art of the creator of the universe to imaginary insignificant conscience, nature is without a doubt less conscious of the truth than an animal.
Yeah, we can discuss this first. That's already.
You didn't start eating it.
Not yet. Right before we go.
So, anything related to this third way?
I was thinking about the discerning and wise art and creativity. Basirane, hakimane, sanat ve icat. Basirane.
Discerning?
Yeah.
Discerning.
Seeing,
Seeing.
discerning. Okay, discerning and wise, or the art and creativity that reflects discernment and wisdom. How do you understand that? Creativity, icat. If we took, for instance, this cell phone,
Yeah.
Can we take it? Yeah. If we borrowed yourself, if we borrowed Cezmi abi's cell phone and looked at the cell phone and but assume that we have the ability to evaluate this thing, but we have not seen a cell phone before. And we ask, what do you think is necessary to make this, or what do you think is the maker of this must be like? If you like to thought of it as an exercise, what can we come up with? Like cell phone, we know we played with it, we know the functions, we know what it does, and we are trying to now figure out. But we also think that it's not just that, it did not happen by itself, somebody must have made it. So what can we do? What can we infer from the cell phone about who made it?
Designer or something?
Farmer.
They know how to measure.
What's that?
Knowledge of measurement.
Okay.
The long side and short side.
Yeah, no, this side is the same size as this side, for instance. This side is the same size as this side, so they must be able to measure things. What else?
Can a farmer make it?
Maybe.
Depends on the farmer.
I'm dealing with the animals.
What are the qualities
Didn't
of this
study
farmer?
engineering. Yeah, I mean that. Not engineer. Yeah, there should be an engineer.
No, are we turning on the cell phone or is it looking at the cell phone?
So you played with it, you know its functions, you know, like you
So
have its, you know its qualities.
it's calculator, so mathematics, no.
Okay, so this person must know math.
Yeah.
Engineering.
Okay, they must be able to apply math to material engineering. What else?
Should know software.
Should
and
have
hardware.
nice design, so
they should be able to make designs. What else?
Programming.
They need to know programming.
Yeah.
They must have some sense of aesthetics, I suppose.
Alright, yeah, that's something hard, I guess.
And we keep going, right? And then we look at the beings, and particularly animate beings in the universe, in the cosmos.
Yeah.
We can do the same thing to them, right?
Yeah, we can apply.
Somewhere it says on humans like 70 and then 20 of them he lists, right? Should we read it? Would it be helpful?
Sure.
Give me Esma'yı okutuyor diyor ya.
30th second.
Words? Kısa bir şekilde geçiyor. Şurada mıydı? Ha, evet, doğru. Orada baştan itibaren. Resim kutusu. Alright.
Okay. The first, the first page. There is an analogy here. Step by step, he is giving examples of how to read the names of Allah. The first page, it is the state which demonstrates the general shape and proportion. It mentions the names of all giver of form. Giver of form, musawwir, determinant, muqaddir, order, munazzam. The second page, this is the plain and unadorned state of the human being and flower in the comparison, which occurs with the disclosure of the forms of all the different members of those two creatures. Many names like all-knowing, Alim, and all-wise, Hakim, for example, are written on this page. The third page, through bestowing a different beauty and adornment all the different members of those two creatures. Many names like Maker, Sani, and Designer. Sani is Maker, Designer, who is designing. Okay, I can.
The name Sani requires
designing, yeah.
Sani requires a kind of art, artistic ability.
A maker, yeah, you can say. The end now. This is Sani and Bari. Sani and Bari. So designer, huh? Bari. The third page is this the third page, Sani and Bari. The fourth page, such a beauty and adornment are given to those two artifacts. It is as though they have become embodied favors and munificence. This page mentions and recites numerous names. Names like, for example, all gracious one, all munificent one. Gracious, Latif and Kareem. The fifth page, through attaching delicious fruits to the flower and lovable children and fine characters to the beautiful woman, this page recites names like all loving one, Rahab, Wadud, all compassionate one, Rahim, and all bestower of bounties, Mun'im. The sixth page, on this page of bestowal and bounties, names like all merciful one, Rahman, all gentle one, Hannan, are recited. The seventh page, flashes of such beauty are apparent in these bounties and the results that are worthy of a sincere gratitude and pure love, which have been needed with true desire and compassion. On this page, the names of all beauties, one of perfection, Ya Jamil al-Kamal, or perfect one of beauty, Ya Kamil al-Jalal, are inscribed and recited. So, yeah, here you can also conclude how many luminous sacred names like ever living, high and subsistent Qayyum, and giver of life, Muhyi, man recites and causes to be recited by reason of his spirit, heart, mind, and through the pages of life and the other subtle qualities. Thus, paradise is a flower, so I'm giving examples here. The company of the Houris is also a flower. The face of the earth is a flower. The spring is a flower. The heavens are a flower, while the stars are their gilded embroideries. The sun is a flower, while the seven colors in its light are the flowers embodied embroidered colors. So, yeah, it's going on like this. We can increase the number of names. Just give an example, general outline. So
can I read the last paragraph again? In exactly the same way, if beings and animate creatures are not attributed directly to the manifestation of the pre-eternal Son's names, it becomes necessary to accept a pre-eternal science, meaning that it's God, right? It becomes necessary to accept that in each being, and especially animate beings, there lies a nature, a force, or quite simply a God that will sustain an infinite power and will, and knowledge and wisdom. Such an idea is the most absurd and superstitious of all the impossibilities in the universe. It demonstrates that a man who attributes the art of the creator of the universe to imaginary, insignificant, unconscious nature is without a doubt less conscious of the truth than an animal.
This is the first impossibility of the way of nature. So who say nature necessitates, nature makes it. So in order to be true, so the nature, like the sun's a condition, nature should have endless counts to create the beings in everything. When we say nature, do we consider, for example, the nature of everything? How do you understand this? Then, for example,
Mahiyet?
Hmm?
Mahiyet?
Yeah.
That's it.
Different?
Yeah.
For example, they consider the sun heats or giving light. They consider its nature is this. And this meaning. So
That's the start use.
they accept a nature for everything, and the sun's nature is this. So it enlightens, it heats. Also, the stone, for example, this is hard, the hardness of the stone, its nature. But we believe that the nature of everything is in the hand of Allah, as in the example of Ibrahim as-Salam's. He was thrown to the fire, and Allah commanded. So the nature of fire is burning, but Allah commands all fire be calm, be calm and cool, huh?
Yeah.
Ya naru kuni
Bardan wa
bardan
salama.
salama. So the nature of fire, so in the hand of Allah. When Allah commands, it changes its nature. So I understand this meaning.
Hakikati eşya ismadır. Var ya.
Yeah.
It is in this.
There's a direct translation in Turkish for nature, or it's like you don't mean like Mother Nature, you mean like a different kind of nature.
Two senses, I think. One is the mother nature, the other one is
we can add this meaning also. It is used, the nature of everything. Also the natural world we are having. Yeah.
What
about in this sense?
It's not like Mother Nature. But
Yeah.
I think.
it is.
No.
You can consider also this meaning when we read this. In which part we can consider.
More mother nature.
It is here.
Because when we talk about nature,
This part will be that. Yeah, that part. Let's make the beginning, please. First, second, third station.
it's possible. Third way up.
Third way, first impossible.
First cross.
So it's
It's like more mother nature for the sense I think. I understand.
well, I think I thought
We can
that at the beginning, but I think there is a connection between the two too.
Oh.
That Jasmine, I don't know. I don't know if I'm understanding you wrong, but I think you're saying that there is a connection between the two.
So, in the first word, you start saying that the nature of everything is in the hand of Allah. So Musa as-Salam is hitting with his staff to the rocks. The nature of the rock is its heart, and it becomes a spring. So
So what is the Turkish word for nature? It's not like this kind of nature. It's
Tabiat.
Mother Nature is like a different.
Tabiat.
It's not like Mother Nature. Like, is it?
We don't say mother, but
You know, like nature's. I guess it's kind of has that meaning.
so there are many words that are all being used here.
Right. Okay.
No, in this conversation right now.
Okay.
So tabiat is nature as in mother nature.
As in Mother Nature.
As in mother nature.
Okay.
But you can also use it to refer to the nature of things, the nature of something, as in the quiddity of something or the reality of something,
Okay.
right? But the more common word that you would use for that is mahiyat.
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 Okay.
And coming from Arabic, mahiya, right? What is it?
Okay.
What it is. And quiddity is the same in French, right? So first, this is 22nd word. According to the meaning of
32nd.
what did I say? 32nd word. According to the meaning of, and there is nothing but it glorifies him with praise. Everything has numerous aspects that give unto God Almighty. That give unto God Almighty.
Khalik, Cenab-ı Hak.
Let me read from it. We shall explain in 5 points only 5 of the virtues of Ubudina. Ubudin terimiz ki. Nasıl oldu böyle? Bu da 23. According to the meaning of, and there is nothing but it glorifies him with praise, everything has numerous aspects that give unto God Almighty like windows that open, that point to Almighty God like windows. The reality of the universe and of all beings is based on the divine names. So this is where it comes from. Her bir şeyin hakikati, reality. Hakikat is the word. The reality of all the universe and of all beings is based on the divine names. The reality of every being is based on one name or on many. All sciences and arts are also based on and rely upon a name. The true science of philosophy is based on the name of all-wise, true medicine on the name of healer, and geometry on the name of determiner, and so on. And in the same way that all the sciences are based on and come to an end in a name, so if we try to apply that to here, we said the cell phone, and it has to know kind of science of measurements, math, and engineering, and so on and so forth, and all of those relate to a quality that the maker of the cell phone has, and we witness that all of those qualities are manifest in the cell phone altogether. So we need to either assume that there is something with all those qualities that the cell phone is reflecting, as in a small piece of glass reflecting the sun, right? Or we need to assume that the sun is in the little piece of glass, or all those qualities are in the cell phone, and in this cell phone too, and in that cell phone too, and in that cell phone too. So at least to me, the second one is easier to reject, right? This doesn't have the qualities of geometry and engineering and so on and so forth. And then the next thing is it nature, something called nature that has all these qualities, right? Am I following the right track?
Yeah, there's carving, nature.
And then what is it that we call nature, right? But it's just an imaginary construct in our minds. How can we assume, how can we attribute such qualities to to a construct that we are assuming in our minds, then we say, well, this is not possible. This is absurd.
Or we can ask, how is your perspective when it is nature? The non-believers say nature. They call nature. What do they mean? How do you understand it?
Well, for me, I like to look at what is the concept behind the word. So, like, as I was shown growing up, and as I just looked in the dictionary, nature is like not like the word that you use for like the reality of things, which is just like what it is.
Yeah.
But nature is like a
organizing the climate and
it's like a personification used to explain how things work. And the personification, Mother Nature, is the mother goddess of the earth that is, making all of these things. So it's not to me. It's not like the reality of things. It's like
maybe you mean the laws happening in the universe. They call nature.
The question is that the Ustad mentions in different parts of Risale-i, tabiat is a kind of notebook, right?
Yeah.
And it on which the rules of in the universe is written. When we talk about nature, what we do? What do we mean? We mean what we read in science books, right? Because science books says nature, on the nature, this happening. For example, as Jazmab said, sun heats up us, or it mentions about blood pressure for human.
Yeah.
On different things, different scientific facts. But these are all knowledge, all are information. What about Qudrat? The power. There must be to structure a cell phone. They're designing and engineering information using math on. Engineering applications is not enough. There must be a kind of workers or power to structure something. Nature is not able to do this.
right.
There must be another person, the hand of God, which means in the name of God, Qudrat, Qadir. Nature doesn't is not able to do this.
Right.
I'm looking up the etymology.
For example, the word Qudrat, that concept is coming from what we consider to be a real being that is able to.
Yeah, they are ascribing Qudrat to the nature.
Yeah.
They consider nature, as a creator, having all the attributions of the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they consider it is Qadir, they consider it is Hakim.
Right.
Yeah, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the divine attributions.
Yeah.
They consider.
So the tabiat that's not coming from the Greek concept of the word nature, right? That's just kind of like a different word to say the reality of things, like quiddity or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
Maybe it has several meanings. That word, nature, is that a Greek name?
No.
Yeah.
Latin name?
Latin, sorry, excuse me.
So it's coming from the word natus, which means born. So it means apparently it started to be used in the late 13th century to mean restorative powers of the bodily processes, powers of growth, being, principle of life, character, essence. Here it gets close to what that other meaning. Course of things, natural character, constitution, quality, the universe, and literally it means birth from natus. Let me see if I can find another. Natura. Birth, origin, natural constitution, like putra. Yeah, putra, tabiat. So I guess it means birth, and by extension it's used to refer to the innate qualities that a thing has.
Yeah.
And then I suppose it came to be used to refer to the innate qualities that the entire thing, the cosmos, has. And the question that's like being addressed here, and to the extent that I understand it, is whether we observe those qualities in each and everything one by one, or we observe them as reflections of an outer source, right? And if it is that outer source, do we relate it to God, or do we relate it to this construct that we named nature? Makes sense?
No, but what came to my mind, you can correct it as a fit. So the order of impossibilities, first is discussed there. First is cause and effect, causes, and then we look at our lives. We start observing the universe in cause and effect relationship. It starts when we are very young, toddler, right? You start with maybe baby, observing others. Then, if you understand that the causes are not really, creating anything, then you start focusing on the things themselves. That's the second thing. It forms by itself. So, does this thing have power to create itself? Then, after solving that problem, it becomes, to me, it becomes abstract, more abstract. And the concept of a creator is also, my understanding is that it is very abstract concept, but it is being inferred, we are inferred, right? So the nature is kind of abstract meaning of, what's going on, how things are in order and follow each other. So my understanding of nature here is that collective rules or laws,
Patterns.
right?
Patterns.
Yes, patterns. And when you look at this from that abstract, it is easy to move to a creator. Because when you see that this nature also doesn't have anything, it is given, then something outside of this nature, what I observe, must do all these things. So then you start thinking of outside of creation. Because whatever we observe is created, and which cannot create anything. So I think the order is very important to me. It is also related to how the young kids start learning. They first look at everything in cause and effect relationship. They start establishing their behavior based on that. If I do this, what will my dad or my mom will say? Then test the things like cause and effect. And after that, as we get a little bit mature, we start looking at the things itself. Then as we get more mature, then we start thinking of everything altogether. That is, my understanding is nature. That is very abstract meaning of everything. And with the help of these books, we also, not scientists, I'm not saying science, but scientists, if we follow the scholars, this is very important, versus methodology, we move away from nature and find that there must be a creator, which is not one of the created beings, which is above, outside of this. If that's make sense, I just wanted to share what I thought. Jasmine knows all other parts of Risale-i, so he can correct if something is not fitting.
So the the other ways or the other words. The first word is causes are making. The second is everything is happening by itself. Is it similar to the third way? Nature necessitates, nature makes it. Similar?
In all of these, he's disproving a concept that does not have a reality, and he's trying to show us that this thing that you are talking about does not have a reality. It's a construct in your mind. You say it's causes that create it, and then he's saying like there is no such thing as causes. It forms itself. That idea of it, like what is it? It does not exist.
Everything.
There is no such thing as an it.
Everything is happening by itself.
Yeah.
They consider.
And then the third one, he's referring to this concept of nature, and he's saying that's a construct too, right? So these are not things that have a reality we can point to and say he's talking about this. And these are things that don't have a reality. These are concepts in our minds, and he is deconstructing basically what is built into our minds to show us that look, if these are not real, you need to find the real. Yeah. And then he also seems to be following a logic in each, as he treats each of those concepts. He starts from things like phenomena at a smaller scale, like in individual things like the cell phone or the human body, a stone, whatever, like things. And then in the second impossible, he moves to that thing in relation to its immediate vicinity, the immediate things that it is interacting with. And the third one, it moves to thing in relation to everything else. So we are reading the first impossible or the third way, which if the same logic applies here too, it's about observing whether this thing, this construct called nature, can have a power on each and every object. So the cell phone, right? And we look and see it has all these qualities, and then we need to ask where are these qualities coming from? They're either in the cell phone or they're coming from somewhere else. And then we question them. So what was it that you said was nature? What did you say was nature, right? And then it forces you to question, so what do I mean by nature, right? And it's a construct that refers to, what did we say, the innate, inborn quality of everything put together, right? And then we said, does it have, or can it have, all these qualities that require wisdom and discernment for this cell phone or whatever, for the flower to exist? And we look and we don't see these compilation of patterns that we observe out there, don't have wisdom and consciousness and discernment. They're blind, as he said it elsewhere. I might be wrong about this, but in reference to your question, is it the same or not? I have a feeling that what we mean by nature is the compilation of causes. Yeah. We put all causes and causes together, we are referring to it as nature. So once you disprove the causes, if you understand that nature is, what we refer to as nature is the compilation of causes, then it becomes easier to discredit nature too.
So, at the very beginning said, it is 9 impossibility. In every way there are 3 impossibility, but in fact it involves 90 impossibility. So these are answers. It's a small booklet. These are answers to all kinds of numbering. any in the history, what kinds of non-belief happened. So this, he is classifying all these kinds of unbelief, and so he is classifying into 3 categories. We can consider them all one, or we can think one by one. Causes are doing this, it happens by itself, or the nature makes it. So in the third way, the third impossibility of the third way, we start mentioning the natural laws, what they consider the nature, the accumulation of the natural laws. They consider that the laws are making this. There's a law of gravity, law of, for example, water. So if you put something on the water, it floats and so on. These are the laws, but who put the law?
Who made the law?
So who made the law? And who is controlling it? The law changes, different. The law of gravity changes on Earth and on the Moon. Who is managing it? Who is controlling it? And so on. It came to my mind that studies answering those who are associating partners to Allah. He says that he says here this is in the 32nd word, second stopping place, the first A. There's a question there. He says since there is no need for the associating partners, why is it you feel constrained to take it the way of associating partners to Allah? So Allah doesn't need associating partners, and there is no sign in the universe. This idea of associating partners just in the mind of the non-believers, in their minds. In the reality, there is no proof or no sign for the shariks, partners. If there was a partner, it would mean that all was our side. So, and so on, is explained. It has many. Yeah.
And also, if someone says Mother Nature has the ability and the power to do all this, they cannot say also there's no God, because you believe also God, but you call it not Mother Nature. Because for explaining everything happening in the universe, we cannot give all the power to the things. I mean, the flower doesn't have the power to structure their own cells themselves, and there must be another power, another ability. Where does it come from? If you say the Mother Nature has those abilities and power, you say it is God. It is not nothing.
So they should ascribe to everything in God.
Maybe with the difference that when they say nature, they're implying that this is a force outside of each and everything that makes that thing possible, but it does not have consciousness. And because it doesn't have consciousness, it does not have any expectations from you. So it's a force that you accept, but at the same time absolving yourself from any obligation, because the nafs doesn't want to have that obligation. When it's God has consciousness, and then you ask so he's creating with purpose, and then what's the purpose? And then I happen to be at the center of everything. What's my purpose? What does he expect from me? What does he want from me? Kind of canceling all these questions, right? But
that's why Tabiat is kind of ana, right? Tabiat is the ana of the universe, right? The human body, human being has ana in a kind of, what is it, like ego. and the ego of the universe is that because of our actions.
Nature. Yes, nature.
Again, please start mentioning this. What's the duty of nature? Is not being holding the God hand. Rather, it's a way for the powerful ones that try to use power behind these We read it, huh?
En hepsi mi diyor ruhun?
Ustad, he is likening, resembling the necklace, the nature in the creation. Yes, you in my body resemble nature in the world. The nature in the world, in the universe, in the creation, and nefs in our body. Both of you were created to receive good and be the thing to which evil is referred. That's to say, you are not the agent and the source, but the recipient and passive. So he will mention this. Nature is not the creator. It's not created, it's created. It's not the active, it's passive. So, but there's passive. You have only one effect, and that's being the cause of evil because you did not accept as you should have. So it's quite much. Yeah. Shall we read?
Second possibility. If beings which are most well ordered and well measured, wise and artistically fashioned, are not ascribed to one who is infinitely powerful and wise, and instead are attributed to nature, it becomes necessary for there to be present in every bit of soil as many factories and printing presses as there are in Europe, so that each bit of soil can be the means for the growth and formation of innumerable flowers and fruits, of which it is the place of origin and workshop. The seeds of flowers are sown in turn in a bowl of soil, which performs the duty of a flower pot for them. An ability is apparent in the bowl of soil that will give shapes and forms which differ greatly from one another for all the flowers sown in it. If that ability is not attributed to the all-glorious and all-powerful one, such a situation could not occur without there being in the bowl full of soil, immaterial, different, and natural machines to each flower. This is because the matter of which seeds, like sperm and eggs, for example, consist is the same. That is, they consist of an orderless, formless, paste-like mixture of oxygen, hydrogen, carbon, and nitrogen. Together with this, since air, water, heat, and light also are each simple, unconscious, and flow against everything it floods, the fact that all different forms of those flowers emerge from the soil in a most well-ordered and artistic fashion self-evidently and necessarily requires that there are present in the soil, in the bowl, the material, miniature printing presses and factories to the number of presses and factories in Europe, so that they could weave this great number of living fabrics and thousands of various embroidered textiles. Thus, you can see how far the unbelieving thought of the naturalists has deviated from the realm of reason. And although brainless pretenders who imagine nature to be creator claim to be men of science and reason, see just how distant from reason and science is their thought, so that they have taken a superstition that is in no way possible that is impossible as a way for themselves. See this and laugh at them.
Yes, Betabe, Zainab, we are waiting for your comments. Okay. Came to my mind the Ustad he is mentioning in the Ayat al-Kubra, the science of miraculousness. Science of Ayat al-Kubra, no, the supreme science. He is giving the name Fattah, the name of Allah, opener. He is giving example, for example, the creation of human beings in one with one cell. From one cell, 100 millions or trillions of cells. So from the eggs, Allah is creating all the birds. So he is giving this example, related with this. So the soil also becomes the life, giving the life from lifeless things. Giving verses indicate that these verses indicating the strongest proof of divine unity and the most remarkable miracle of divine power is Allah's opening up forms. Allah is opening up forms from the, for example, we put the seed, plant the seed in the soil, and it comes a fig tree, or we can consider a very beautiful flower, very similar. The figs are very similar. The seeds are very similar. So, if we do not accept that Allah is creating these, so what should be accepted? There are factories of flowers, flower factories in the immaterial, but not material, because nobody saw factory in the inside of the soil. There should be unseen immaterial factories to make the flower, the tree. How do they ascribe to what they are ascribing, for example, the nationalist people? The creation of the plants in the soil, from the embryo, dry seed, a huge tree is coming into being.
My question is, what is the difference between first and second perspectives?
We asked the same thing when we were doing the second bit.
Yeah.
And also, as you said, what
Examples
is the difference between everything is happening itself or Tabiat?
Yeah, they're very similar.
Very similar. There's just small things. What?
Small details, huh?
I'm asking for this first and second.
What I understand in terms of the difference between the first and second is this progression of what you look. You look at the thing itself, and then you look at the thing in relation to its vicinity, in interaction with its vicinity. And then the third one, you look at the thing in interaction with everything else, you look at the entire thing, right? So the first one, take the flower, you look at the flower, there are all these qualities that are manifest in the flower. They either have to be in the flower, from the flower, or they have to be manifesting from an outer source. And then people say this is nature. Some others say this is itself. Some others say this is causes. Right? These are all constructs that, and because they don't exist, they don't have a reality, we cannot point to them and say Ustad is talking about this thing. Right? They do mix up, because at the end of the day, they are all talking about God, but they are trying to talk about God without attributing to God, right? So they're all constructs. So the difference is that not Ustad, not Bediüzzaman, but other people construct that itself, or causes, or nature, right? So the first one, the flower, had those qualities, it either in it or outside. The second one, we are not looking at one flower, but we are looking at the soil from which the flower is coming out. and producing the flower. Or you can think of it as a flower on a fruit tree. From the flower, the fruit is coming, right? So either the flower has a factory in it, or you know, like either the soil has a factory on it, or either the flower has a factory on it, or something else is happening. Somebody is creating it. Like if you read the first impossibility, you said, okay, I accept the cell phone does not have in it an engineer and a mathematician and a like miner, because then you have to, you know, mine things and, you know, put in here and all of those things. Okay, I accept the cell phone does not have all of these in it, but it was made in a factory. Okay, let's look at the factory. Okay, so does the factory have all these qualities, all these attributes that you see manifest in the cell phone? Okay, we look at the factory, the soil or the flower. Okay, the flower doesn't have it, but it's coming from the soil. Let's look at the soil, right? Nature of soil, right?
Yeah, we try to find the agent.
Yeah, agent. Yeah, is it there? Nope, not there either. Okay.
Is this flower has the abilities to be like this, or it is grown in the soil? In the third step, we will see the nature. So what you call nature is the combination, the accumulation of
the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Big Bang and after.
Yeah. Accumulation of the laws. So we try to find the agent. What do you call nature? Who is? We should bring a naturalist. Hüseyin abi, you are the scientist abi. Please help us.
That's not the
But anyway, you are not a naturalist scientist.
this text. So yeah, I agree. Mashallah, Brother Mustafa explained very well. So first one is about UX, art and creativity. Something exists, and you look at it, and it is a very strong, methodology claim there. If you claim that this is created by something, it should be it should be in it, but we don't see it. In the cell phone, for example, you don't see the cell phone's designer, cell phone's scientist in it, but from the way it functions and it looks, we understand it is a product of scientists, and also it is designed, it is well ordered, everything in it. So that is the first case. The second case is, yes, it is not coming. It is dependent on all other things. Like in order to have a tree, you need soil, you need sunlight, you need all other, the part of nature, the parts of the nature. So, but when we look at it, all they are working very well. Seemingly they are against each other, but they work very well in everything on the seed, and seed becomes a tree, right? So then he's in the second one. He's discussing about it. If you think that nature is doing it, there must be innumerable number of factories which are producing all these products. And maybe in the second one he will mention, I don't know, but every seed is different than other seeds. Every tree is different than other trees. Every part of a tree is different than the same. The same tree is next to it. So, and from each other. So therefore, it is not something you have a chocolate bar, you set up the factory, and you put all the ingredients, and you get almost 99% the same product you receive. But in creation, we don't see that. Everything is different. Every seed is different. Every leaf is different. Every tree is different. Every human being is different. And when we look at living organisms, not only the way they look is different. Their characters are different. Feelings are different. I have 2 cats. They are totally different.
Cats or kids?
Cats. And I have 2 kids. They are also totally different. Even in animals, when you have animals as pets, you will see that they don't behave in the same way. Sometimes you may have some pets, they look like the same, but you will see that they behave differently.
Every being is different from, one moment to the next.
Yeah,
I'm not the same Mustafa that was sitting here 3 hours ago.
There is a renewal process. Everything is being created again and again. So that requires that there must be a factory for every being is created, and that factory should also change every moment. It is impossible.
Factory itself has changed.
Yeah, because as Brother Musa said, factories must change also because every moment is different. It is not something you set this clock and it moves by itself. But in the creation, we don't see it. Things are so different from each other. Year to year, month to month, moment to moment.
Another interesting thing is like all these changes based on like meaning for things, oxygen, hydrogen, carbon, and nitrogen. They are the same. I mean, in terms of they're moving or they're shaping differently, but then become something different than the previous one.
Yeah, forms are different.
Or it can be other minerals, elements can also be included there, but it makes it even more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we need to end here.
Yeah.
Al-Fatiha.